Good afternoon, YouTube, and welcome to another video with a guy and his projects. Today, actually not today, today we're just doing the vlog over, or whatever you want to call this, but let's call it today for today's purposes. So today, we are working on my wife's 2014 Ford Expedition elongated version of the XLT. This is a pretty decent SUV, actually. I've been fairly impressed since we got it with how well it handles. So what we're doing today is we are doing some basic maintenance. We're going to change the oil, top off all the fluids, rotate the tires, and do the things that you're supposed to do on a regular basis to make your vehicles last a very long time. But here's the thing, I'm not actually the one doing it today, and before you get excited and think my wife is doing it, she's not getting on camera for that either. However, the pastor from my church, Pastor Matt from Connection Church in Sturgis, South Dakota, has asked to participate in my garage endeavors, working on the vehicles because he wants to learn a little bit more. He likes to hang out, and he has actually volunteered to do the service on this expedition. Now, my pastor is a very good guy, and wow. These guys, man, tear these roads up. Hold on. It's been raining for a few days, and now all these side-by-sides, dirt bikes, quads are getting a little, they're burning all the energy they haven't been able to burn, and, you know, they're cruising down these roads. They act like people like me in big expeditions aren't driving on them, and yeah, they put themselves at risk. Because in that battle, I'm gonna win. Not my fault either. All right, anyway, where were we? Pastor Matt is doing the service on this. He wants to hang out to learn more and to pick up some stuff and to just hang out for my company, I kind of hope, you know. Anywho, so I'm going to be showing him how to do this, and I show by teach, by hands-on. So he's going to be getting hands-on, dirty, changing my wife's oil for her, and it's going to work out pretty good. We'll bring him back on the channel here shortly. He's got a few cars. Maybe we'll service his and give you guys some how-tos as well. So keeping all that in mind, this is not a how-to change your Expedition oil. This is a how I'm going to change my oil and service the car. So if you want to come along, we are going to get started right now. All right, so the drain plug you're going to pull. Mine is a 16 millimeter. I can't say everybody's is because people put aftermarket drain plugs on all the time, and they're all different sizes, but mine's a 16 millimeter. We're going to go ahead and pop this off. Wear gloves if you can. It'll keep your fingers a little bit more clean, and you're just going to pop this off. Make sure you have a drain pan underneath and ready to catch the oil. There's going to be approximately 6 quarts coming out theoretically, so make sure you have a big enough pan to catch all 6. Once you have the drain plug out, now you've got to go put a new crush washer on. Not everybody replaces the crush washer every time, but I do. I feel like it's very important, especially if you're using these plastic ones with the ridges, because once you crush it once, the ridges are now crushed. So you want to replace it. If you're using a copper or brass or something like that washer, you still compress it when you crush it. That's what crushing it does. And yeah, you can get away with not replacing it. I prefer to just replace them. They're typically 10 cents a piece. It's not a big deal yet. Biden's America's catching up though. Might be a big deal soon. So change it while you can afford it. All right, so after you have your new crush washer on, you are free to go ahead and spin that drain plug back into the pan, providing you're done dripping. Depending on how much you want to drip is up to you. You could drip it for days and still going to drip a little bit. You don't have to get every drop of oil out. That's why we maintain them and do them on a regular basis. So go ahead and just plug that plug back in, screw it down. I don't know the official torque spec, but I'm going to guess about 24 foot-pounds. So get it to right in that range and you should be safe and good to go theoretically. If you want exact torque specs, go ahead and look those up online. Don't forget to dispose of your oil correctly and in a safe, environmentally friendly manner. I dump mine in 5-gallon buckets. I've got screw-on lids with seals. I fill up a couple of them and I take them to my local auto parts store every here and there when they get full. They're most gracious to take that and the O'Reilly's by me, depending on who's working, they even dump it for me. So once you have your oil out of the way and your oil pan back empty, I like to attack the filter. Some people do their filter first, some do it second. I don't really matter. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't really care. I just get it at some point. But if you do it first, you don't, it doesn't really matter. We're doing the oil filter next. Go ahead and unscrew that. Oil's going to drain through that trough in the back. You might get lucky, you might come out the front. Either way, be ready to catch it no matter which way it drops. You're going to unscrew that filter, dispose of the filter correctly. All right, so now we can put on our new filter. I like to prime the filter per se ahead of time before I install it. I don't fill it up all the way, but I do put a good portion of oil in there just so that the filter's somewhat primed. So on that first turn of the key, you don't have a dry engine, if you know what I mean. You've got some oil flowing. It takes less time to prime, theoretically. Before we put this on, we're going to go ahead and dab our finger in that new oil and just spread it around on that gasket. What this does exactly, I don't know, but I do know that if you put a dry gasket on and you start tightening it, that gasket can catch and you can bunch it up, and that's no good. So I envision the wet oil on the gasket allows that gasket to slide on the metal as you tighten it so that you don't bunch it and kink it and squish it and everything else. Before you actually screw this on and install it, make sure that the old gasket is still on the old filter, and even if it is, reach up and make sure there's not a second gasket on the housing, because you don't want to put gasket on top of gasket. So go ahead and spin that off if it's on there, rip it off, whatever, and you are now free to install your filter. As far as how tight this goes, I don't really know. I just, rule of thumb, go as tight as I can go with one hand, and it's always been tight enough. So it's pretty simple in that aspect for me. All right, don't forget to dispose of your old filter as well in a very environmentally friendly manner, however that looks in your jurisdiction. All right, so while we have this thing in the air, we decided to go ahead and do a tire rotation. Your tire manufacturer is going to tell you the ideal I don't know what I'm trying to say. Mile quantity, the quantity of miles between tire rotations. Every manufacturer is different. Some say, so the ideal amount of miles for a tire rotation, some are 5,000, 3,000, 7,000, 10,000. I don't know. I don't really care. Pretty much every oil change, I do a tire rotation because I'm not tracking at all how many miles I'm putting on these tires between rotations. So that's just what I've got going. My tire rotations typically look like moving the rears to the front, and then I cross the fronts over to the back side. And then the next tire rotation, I just swap. I move the rears forward and the fronts backwards, and then repeat the process. That's typically how I do my tire rotations. How you do them is up to you. This is not a how-to. This is a how I do. Make sure you torque your lug nuts down. I don't remember what we did. I think we did 110 foot-pounds, and that's what that stick is for, that torque stick. As you zing that lug nut on, it'll kind of stop allowing, you to go any tighter. So those are super helpful. I recently found them, and I'm enjoying them so far. I'm also checking tire pressures, making sure the tires are at the right tire pressure. I'm not going by the max PSI on the tire. I'm going by the sticker in the door. So if you look in your door, depending on your type of vehicle, be here, might be on the door. This will tell you exactly what, for the weight of the vehicle and the speed of the vehicle, this will tell you what PSI to run on your tires. Don't go by the max. So this one is saying for this size tire, you're going to go 35 PSI. That's based off of many, many factors, including the weight of the vehicle, how fast the vehicle is designed to go, and all that stuff to keep your tires lasting a long time. So we're just going to top those off, make sure they are correct. But you also want to do that when they're cold, not after a freeway drive, because, air inflates when it's hot. From there, we can go ahead and drop your Expedition down to the ground if it was in the air for whatever, you know what I mean. And we're going to pop the hood open. We're going to put a funnel in the oil fill spot, which is going into your crankcase. And we are going to go ahead and fill this up with some Quaker State 5W20. Not sponsored. That's just what was cheap on the shelf when I got there. We are using the full synthetic version. It's always helpful if you shake your jugs up before you dump them in, just to get any additive package that may have fallen out of suspension back in suspension before you pour it in the crankcase. Just my personal preference and what I like to do. I'm dumping 6 quarts in here, but we'll check the oil later on the dipstick to make sure that is correct. Once you've got all 6 quarts in there, or whatever your manual calls for, we're going to go ahead and replace the cap and jump into the air filter. I let Matt figure out where the air filter was. He found it. Second try. No. All right, so your air filter is in this air box right here. It's held on by 3 little pressure clips in the back side there, and then it just kind of clips into place on the front. We were unable to get this to wiggle out, so we ended up taking the mass airflow sensor off with just got a little red clip in the back, and then it pulls out like a normal everyday sensor. Undid the hose clamp here and popped it out and wiggled it out. You can probably get away without doing that, but ours was stuck, so that's what we did. This filter actually looks really good, which is surprising. Seems like it's got about, 10,000 miles on it, but it doesn't see a lot of dirt road. Most of the road it's been on that is dirt is more muddy, so it's good. But I bought a filter, don't feel like storing it, so we're going to replace it anyway and be good for another 10,000 miles. And we're going to go ahead and just put all this stuff back on. Put your cover on, clamp, put your mass airflow sensor back on, tighten your hose clamp, and make sure those 3 clamps and the those little pressure clamps get back on as well. All right, so now all we got to do is the basic stuff. We're going to check all the fluids, starting with the washer fluid. We're going to top this off. Usually this doesn't quite make it a full oil change before we need to top it off again. That's okay. I've got some de-icer windshield washer fluid, even though it's midsummer. It's what we're putting in because it's what I got on the shelf. We're then going to go to the brake fluid reservoir. I just take a flashlight, shine it on the tank, I guess, and you can see where the oil level is. Give it a little flick tap on the container, you'll see it splash if you're having a hard time. Same thing with the power steering fluid and your coolants. Make sure you check all of those fluids, make sure you're all happy and all good, because you don't want an unhappy vehicle, because an unhappy vehicle is typically an unreliable vehicle. All right, guys, if you've made it this far, make sure you go ahead and remember to check your oil level. So you're gonna let all your oil fill or get down to the oil pan. Then you can pull your dipstick tube and make sure that you have enough in there. You're just gonna wipe this off, stick it back in all the way in, not just most of the way. You're gonna stick it all the way back in so it gets to the proper level. Latch it in place, pull it back out. And you're just gonna check your oil level. You should be between the 2 holes in the dipstick, or the min and max line, or whatever your dipstick happens to say. If you're not, adjust accordingly. If you accidentally miscounted, put 10 quarts in, go back, pull the drain plug, and drain it back out. Not a big deal, guys. If you didn't fill it quite enough, add a little more. It's not science. Well, it's not super smart science. Just make sure your fluids are good. And that's all I really got for you, folks. We just did a full service. When I say we, I mean my pastor just did a full service on my wife's vehicle, so she is good to go, good to roll. So at this point, guys, you've pretty much finished your service. She looks good, she feels good, she runs good. You could also check your belts and stuff if you wanted. If it's the first time you're under there, this is a regular thing for me and the vehicle. So I mean, I already replaced the belt before we went on a family road trip a couple months back. So all is good. She's ready to roll. Thanks for watching, guys. Remember, I will link all the products down below in the description. If you click on the Amazon link, it helps me if you buy anything within 24 hours of clicking that link. Also, if you buy stuff I recommend, it helps even more. So check out the links. There's also a PayPal link if you want to just donate straight to the channel. Keep these videos coming. That's always helpful as well. Thanks for sticking around, guys. Hit that subscribe button, leave a thumbs up, a comment down below, and come on back next Friday. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later.